Hey, what's up, you guys? It's been a long time since I've had a chance to make a new video. I've been really busy working a lot. And last week was AES, so I was over there working the Blue Cat audio booth, so I had no real time to do any kind of new videos and stuff. But today I want to do one thing, and I want to talk about this new plugin. And this is the Sonimus TuCo. This is basically their take on a vari-mu compressor. And when I say their take, I mean their own creation. They basically got the idea and the topology of a vari-mu compressor, and they created it into their own thing. Now, as usual Sonimus fashion, you have lots of controls that have been simplified to be as easy to use as possible. You have an A/B function, you have a preset loader right here, and the little menus, you can go left and right. You have different modes. You have mono, stereo vintage, which basically keeps it more wide and open so you can have a more stereo balance. It kind of compresses things how old school vintage stereo compressors work. You have stereo modern, where when something passes a threshold, it automatically does them both at the same time. You also have dual mono, which basically allows you to have two compressors in mono. The left and right set has its own compressor, and they basically compress things when things pass the threshold individually. So this is cool because some people don't like to have stereo compressors that are linked, and this is more of the left side gets compressed when it passes the threshold for the left side, and the right side, you know, vice versa, the same thing. Now, if you click on this little Sonimus thing, you can actually view the gain reduction, input, or output. You have 4 compressor modes. You have a slow attack compressor, fast attack compressor, slow attack limiter, and fast attack limiter. And the amount is judged right here from 0 to 48. This is basically no compression and a lot of compression. Your output is right here. It starts at 12. And then it goes all the way to 48, which is gain. So this is to basically do your makeup gain. You have the release, which is 0 for fast, 10 for slow. You have a mix knob that goes from dry all the way to 100, which is wet. You can do before and after. And basically the difference is one of them has it. So what you're doing is you're mixing the compression, but not the output. So basically you have the output at 100%. So if you are using the tube distortion or the tube output circuit and you're driving it hard, all you're mixing is the compression, and while the other one is actually mixing the entire output of it. So you can basically have the compression with the distortion in a mix knob, or you can have just the distortion or the gain. You have a sidechain high-pass filter, which basically is for the detection circuit, which goes from 10 hertz all the way to 350 hertz. And then you have a drive knob, which starts at 0, which basically bypasses the saturation or the tube distortion. And you have 10, which is driving it as hard as possible. So what I want to do is I want to show you guys how this sounds. And I think a great way of doing this is actually showing you on this bass guitar. So what I want you to listen to is we're going to go back and forth between this transition right here to here. And one thing you're going to hear is that when it does transition from this quiet part, as you can see, it gets way louder. And one thing that I've had an issue with is that it sounds really unnatural. And the way I'm using TuCo is I'm actually using it to kind of smooth out the transition. And as you see here, I have it set up as a fast compressor. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just play this with it bypassed, where if I actually hit the little power button right here, where there's no blue light, it's bypassed. So I want you to listen to the transition from the soft note into the louder note, and then I'm going to turn it on. I want you to see how it's smoother. I'm not killing it, I'm smoothing it out. So here we go. We're going to solo this bass out, and I'll show you what I mean. So, I mean, I know this is quite a subtle example, but this is an example that I like to use because I think this is a great way of showing off how you can use this as almost invisible. It's just slightly tucking it and grabbing it. Now, let's see what happens if we go for the fast attack, do hard, and we actually have a really fast release. Let's see what we can get out of that. So as you can hear from that, you get a really pumping sound. Let's bring the release out all the way. That's actually relatively smooth, and even though you're getting a lot of compression, you're actually having it really smooth. One thing you can also do that I forgot to mention is the amount. You can actually have auto makeup enabled, which is great if you like to use the drive like how I do. So I'm going to have that enabled, and we're going to see what type of sounds we can get out of this. So the reason why I wanted to do that is, as you can hear from that, you're getting a lot of gain, but we're also getting a lot of saturation. And as you can notice from that, that's tube style saturation. So let's do the mix knob. Let's see after output control. Let's have this all the way dry, and this should be completely dry. Yes, it is. It's completely dry with the really over kind of like peaking dynamics. So what we're going to do is we're going to slowly bring it in with the mix knob and see what type of sound we can get. Cool. So as you can kind of notice from what I'm doing with that is I'm actually just using about 24%, but since I am gaining a lot, I am still bringing in just a little bit of that distortion. So one thing that I kind of wish we could have, which I think would be great if Sonimus could add, is maybe just an extra output knob. Just an extra clean gain that's after the drive and after the mix knob, just so we can do a compensation. Because one thing that is really cool is if you do the before output control, what you're doing is you're actually getting just the saturation or just the gain, and you can basically do between the compression or no compression. But one thing that would be great is if we could have a output compensation or something right here, so we can actually have a finer tuning of the levels, so we can actually compensate more correctly. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to actually add a gain plugin. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab a Satson channel, and we're going to gain it down. So if I actually bypass this and bypass the TuCo, you see we have a lot of really like a clean kind of sound with besides that buzz. That was because this was recorded with a really buzzy amp, and it was kind of like, because this was supposed to sound like a really lo-fi, kind of like dirty, kind of like in someone's basement kind of thing. But as you can see, is you do get a lot of thickness from this. So if we go back to our original setting, the A setting, I actually had this. This was before the update came where you can actually have these mix controls and stuff like this. I wasn't using it to really drive it as hard. I was using it just to slowly control it. So one cool thing about this, though, is I want to take this to the mix bus. And I'm going to show you what we can do with using that whole function of using TuCo as a saturation unit. So if I grab it right here, I have it deactivated. And as you see, what I'm doing is I'm actually having it at, a moderate amount of compression with a automatic gain compensation. I'm driving it hard, but I'm only using about 16%. Now my basic output level is about the same. I'm using the slow attack for the compressor. And what I'm basically doing is I'm using this as a distortion unit. So let me put this all the way. We'll do the B function. And let me just drive this all the way. Or not even all the way, because that'll be way too loud. Let me show you about 50%, and you can see how much crunch and distortion I'm getting. So this is nothing soloed now. Here we go. So as you can hear from that, I'm getting a ton of distortion. It's making it sound really crazy. So if we go to the A section, and what we're going to do is we're going to play this, and then I'm going to bypass it, which when this blue light turns off, it is bypassed. Listen to the overall thickness, the density, and the volume. I actually set this up so I'm getting minimal peak increase. I'm actually gaining a lot of RMS with this distortion. So we're going to start with it on, and then I'm going to bypass it. And let's do a little section. So I know that's kind of repetitive, and that is a little annoying to listen to, but one thing that if you're really listening carefully, and I know this might not come off very well on YouTube, is we are getting a decent amount of volume increase, but it's perceived volume. Because on my meters, I'm actually not getting as loud as I am without the compressor. So let's see what it's doing, because I'm actually having this going on where there's some actual dialogue or vocals. So let's see what's going on over here. We'll have it on, we'll bypass it, and let's see what's going on.
Looks down at the earth, looks down at the earth, looks down at the earth, he doesn't know his worth. Looks down at the earth, looks down at the earth, looks down at the earth, he doesn't know.
This is kind of subtle, but it is audible. Hopefully what you could hear from this is when I do bypass it, and like I said, when that blue light turns off, it is bypassed, so please watch that and listen. You get this slight dip in the volume, and it's not just volume, it's like the tone. There's not enough character. The brightness kind of goes away, and a little bit of this thickness and the like lower mid-range kind of goes away. When I turn it back on, it kind of makes it sound like it's coming back to life. It brings up the entire mix, and like I said, yes, it is bringing up the RMS, but it's not bringing up the peak. If anything, I'm gaining maybe like 0.5 dB, but it is making it substantially sound more full. And that is really cool. I would highly suggest grabbing a demo. And the reason why I was focusing on this distortion is because I think what you could use this as is something in parallel. I genuinely like this in parallel. And that way, you know, you don't have to worry about, oh, am I doing this too much? You can just dial it so where you think you're getting of the character and the color that you want. So like bring it back and dial it down so that where you can have just the taste of it. And that's the power in this that I find, is this is really colored, really, really colorful, really powerful, really pumpy, or really invisible. And what's better than being able to dial that to taste? So that's it for today. Hope you like this. I know it's been a while, but honestly, I really do like this plugin, and I think you should try it out. And yeah, see you guys soon, and have a good one. Bye.